There's a typical understanding of the zombie that goes into two forms: the zombie astral and the zombie cadavre. Zombie astral is the equivalent of a spirit, kind of doesn't have a bodily shape. Zombie cadavre is the zombie body, and the one that is most typically represented when we think of zombies these days. And of course, the tradition of the zombie itself becomes a lot more noticeable once there are these physical existence of the zombies, including Voice that we mentioned in the previous video. Um, when he showed up at a hospital, American hospital, as I mentioned, there were American doctors there, including the thesis advisor of Wade Davis, who we mentioned was very involved in studying the case. Here's an article by Davis from 1983 when he advances his possible explanation for why the zombies exist. For the voodooist, the creation of either type of zombie is essentially a magical process. However, in the case of the zombie cadavre, a slow-acting poison may be used to induce discreetly the prerequisite unnatural death. From an ethnopharmacological investigations, we know that the poison acts to lower dramatically the metabolic rate of the victim almost to the point of death. Pronounced dead by attending physicians who check for only superficial vital signs of heartbeat and respiration, and therefore considered physically dead by family members and critically by the zombie maker himself, the victim is in fact buried alive. Undoubtedly, in many cases, the victim does die either from the poison itself or by suffocation in the coffin. The widespread belief in the veracity of physical zombies in Haiti, however, is based on those instances when the victim receives the correct dosage of the poison, wakes up in the coffin, and is dragged out of the cave by the zombie maker. So Davis is obviously pretty critical of the idea of the zombie being an actual magical process, and he explains it through the presence of poison, especially tetrodotoxin, which we'll talk about next slide, that is created through pufferfish poison. So the idea is that the poison is used to create paralysis, according to him, on purpose, of course, but every now and then people do die either because of suffocation or because of too much poison, which explains why the process is so rare, even though the belief in zombies is so common. And as a result of that, the magicians, the zombies, the sorcerers are playing kind of this big scam in a way on Haitian society. And pretty much immediately when Wade Davis publishes his findings, there are a lot of criticisms. As you see here from the headline, Voodoo Science, a popular claim that a chemical found in pufferfish may be a crucial element of the creation of zombies in Haitian folklore, has been challenged. Critics claim contrary evidence was ignored. Number one part of contrary evidence is the fact that pufferfish are not unique to Haiti. Other people around the world are using pufferfish, including for ethnobotany or ethnopharmacology, as Wade Davis calls it. So using natural products as part of human culture. So it could be as a medicine, it could be as poison, it could be as drugs, all kinds of things that you could do. So why would Haiti only create this tradition of using the poison as kind of this thing to keep people between life and death? Also, other places that have pufferfish typically know the difference between poison and lack of poison, and therefore they wouldn't make those kinds of mistakes that Davis points out, where the voodoo practitioners administer too much poison and people die in their coffins and whatever. So that did not really add up to people who knew something about pufferfish poison. It didn't help that Wade Davis did not share his data or his results, mostly because he sold the rights to his research to make a very average movie about it, which for a variety of reasons seemed unlikely, because the scientific product itself would not be used in the movie, but so it looked like an excuse why he wouldn't share his knowledge. And more importantly, what it did share was a lot more complex than what he makes it sound. Here's part of this article in, I think, 87. Most of the powders contained a variety of ingredients, some including the fresh remains of a human cadaver, as well as stinging nettles, noxious toads, and one or more species of pufferfish found in Haitian waters. It was the fish that interested Davis, since pufferfish are known to sometimes contain the potent tetrodotoxin. Tetrodotoxin blocks the sodium channels between the nerve endings and can cause paralysis and death. Davis says he paid about $300 for each sample, an enormous amounts of money in Haiti, which is one of the poorest countries in the Western Hemisphere. So lots of complications here. Number one, the fact that he paid for his data, which is ethically not great in terms of anthropology, because people are willing to give you anything, especially false data, if they are going to make a lot of money from it. Also, the fact that there is a human cadaver involved here means that well, if someone was actually paid to locate this thing and they are not a voodoo practitioner, that means some body, literal body, was exhumed specifically to make this white anthropologist happy, which is not great because it's, again, once assuming that this was not done consensually by the family. And of course, the fact that there are other poisons existing in there, including stinging nettles and noxious toads. Both of those are also very commonly used in ethnobotany and therefore could have been equally part of the cocktail that made people quote unquote zombies according to the study. So without more specific information about exactly what the process was, Wade Davis's ideas of the pufferfish poison was dismissed very quickly, but still remained for a lot of casual observers. Another more complicating element is the fact that Haiti is not the United States, right? Right. I know this is surprising, but yes, indeed, Haiti is not the United States, which means that the entire context according to which medicine is done there is very different from the United States, starting with, for example, burial practices. The idea that Wade Davis uses is that because Haiti is a warm tropical country, then bodies would have to be buried a lot quicker than they are in the United States to avoid them rotting and kind of becoming problematic for a variety of reasons. This much is true, but again, people would necessarily account for this because this has been the situation in Haiti for as long as people have been there. So therefore, they should know exactly what difference it makes to bury people on the date they should be, and more likely than not would not make mistakes when it comes to burying people too soon or too late. Also, another problem there is that there was a very common disease in Haiti called typhus fever. In fact, by the time that this whole affair is happening, the president of Haiti is named Papa Doc, François Duvalier. He was a doctor who was especially focused on typhus fever cases, and kind of ran his political campaign on curing typhus fever in Haiti. So definitely an important part of the day-to-day life um, of people living in Haiti, and as described here in 1819, this is what typhus fever does. The severest form of typhus do not usually appear in young subjects. In middle-aged persons, the most formidable cases I've seen have been those which were neglected during the first 8 days of the distemper, or which, occurring in broken constitutions, involve some material disorganization. Fevers which have been preceded by great bodily fatigue or mental anxiety begin in a irregular and alarming manner, with watchfulness, somnambulism, sleepwalking, we've mentioned this before, or delirium, and with alternate excitement and extreme depression. Some of the cases were, at the commencement, an hysterical and others a maniacal aspect. So, common disease that causes people to be fatigued, to sleepwalk, to behave alarmingly, and if any of those elements correspond to your modern idea of what zombies look like, there might not be much much of a coincidence there. More importantly, because of Papa Doc as the president, being a Haitian nationalist in a variety of ways, he was not very well liked by American doctors or American travelers because the United States had a pretty large presence in Haiti in the early 20th century, not just through doctors, but through traders and people who would be traveling back and forth between the US and Haiti. uh, Duvalier was trying to develop a Haitian economy, of course, and very quickly he was victim of a coup, which he survived, but he became very paranoid after that, including having death squads that are essentially looking out for his political opponents, which would explain why a lot of people would have died during those years, maybe in questionable conditions. Also, another disease that exists in Haiti at the time is Treponema pallidum, a bacteria that again causes well, the pictures mentioned here are displayed here. So this is essentially a bacteria that happens in a conjunction with syphilis. Again, syphilis, a very common disease in the 19th and early 20th century, and so therefore something that would be very common, something that would also, as you can see, physical deformations, which is certainly, again, very close to the modern idea we have about zombies, and something that would also, because it is linked to a sexually transmitted infection, be kept in a haze, essentially, not always clearly transmitted from one person to the other. And one last one, bromism. Most writers on therapeutics give the symptoms of chronic bromism. Solier has presented an especially good description. There first appears a dyspeptic condition, which is followed by bronchitis. The dyspepsis is indigestion. It's not a big deal. Um, then eruptions, finally, cachexia, that is wasting of the body due to chronic illness. This is typically associated with HIV/AIDS these days, cachexia. Which is characterized by emaciation, an earthy complexion, incipient paralysis at the extremities, trembling of the limbs and coldness, a dirty coating of the tongue, anorexia, diarrhea, apathy and weakness of the memory, sometimes delirium, hallucinations, intense headache, and mydriasis in one eye. Nothnagel and Rothbach also give thirst and a cough resembling whooping cough. At the same time, there is absence of the pharyngeal reflex and difficult speech, which, in combination with a clouded intellect and tremor of the hands, might lead one into making a mistaken diagnosis of progressive paresis. Paresis being muscular weakness caused by nerve damage, typically associated with syphilis as well. Again, another disease that would make people appear like quote unquote zombies. Also, bromism is usually caused by too much salt in the diet. Salt is used as a preservative. Salt is also used as a medicine. So, giving too much salt or having too much salt would create people who are in this condition of bromism. Malaria, also very common. Mosquito-borne illness still exists today, causes fever, tiredness, vomiting, jaundice, etc. So all these things would kind of contribute to people looking like quote-unquote zombies. Last new development in the domain of zombies would be what you might have heard in The Last of Us, the zombie fungi, zombie fungus, cordyceps, which typically infects ants and spiders, not necessarily humans, of course, but the series and the video game show what would happen if there was such a spore that would allow people to turn into these insect controlled type of animals. And so this is a very common fungus, something that happens very easily, something that would not necessarily condition humans, but again, kind of expanding our thought process to this is kind of a combination of physical ailment, of mental ailment, of all kinds of afflictions that would create a zombie in the same way that Wade Davis described it in the middle of the 20th century. We're going to look back quickly at Dalkin Parsons, who was studying the idea and the possibility of quote-unquote zombies in Haiti. During a recent folklore collecting trip to the south coast of Haiti, I had opportunities to observe certain combinations in the cult of African paganism and French Catholicism of much interest to the student of acculturation as well as to the West Indian folklorist and historian, West Indian being the Caribbean. That this cult has heretofore passed undescribed in Haiti is probably due to the diversion of interest to one of its reputed feature, ritual cannibalism, or in journalistic term, voodoo human sacrifice, the folklore of which is widespread amongst foreigners, white and colored, in Haiti as well as among Caribbean neighbors. Some St. Lucia boys shipwrecked in Santo Domingo told me that they became afraid of going to Haiti as they once thought of doing, since they had heard how they killed and ate people in Haiti. It was the same story I had heard 15 years before from the French wife of a Syrian merchant in the Haitian town of Gonaives. This lady felt outraged against the island, quote unquote, savages. So Haiti has kind of accumulated this reputation of being a place that was feared, that the local people had the obscure traditions. And one more obscure tradition mentioned here, and we'll talk about a little bit later this week, is this mix of African folklore, French Catholicism, and kind of the West Indian folklore history. So all of these. All of these different tradition mixing into a unrecognizable form that we can more or less call voodoo has led to this very large mythology of what Haiti is, and as a result, what zombies are.